You know what nobody tells you about dating someone avoidant? Sometimes they leave, heal, and actually come back ready for real love. But most of the time, they just come back to repeat the same cycle that broke you both the first time. Look, I get it. You're probably watching this because your avoidant ex either just reached out or you're hoping they will. Maybe you're lying awake, wondering if this time will be different. And here's the thing. I'm not going to give you false hope, but I'm also not going to take away your ability to see the real signs when they show up. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what separates a real return from just another round of the same painful game. And I'll share the one behavior that tells you everything you need to know, but we'll get to that later. Here's what most people get wrong about avoidance and breakups. They think avoidants leave because they don't care. That's not it. Avoidants leave because they care too much and have no idea how to handle it. Their nervous system literally tells them that closeness equals danger. So when things get real, when you start needing them, they run. Attachment theory shows us that avoidant attachment typically develops in childhood when consistent emotional unavailability from caregivers teaches a child that showing needs leads to disappointment. So they adapt. They become independent, self-sufficient. They convince themselves they don't need anyone. And that works great until they fall in love. After a breakup, avoidants typically feel relief at first. They get their space back. But then something happens, usually around the 3 to 6 month mark. The relief wears off and they start to miss you. But here's the catch. What they miss isn't always you. Sometimes it's just the comfort, the security. If this is already making things click for you, like you're finally understanding what happened, drop a like so I know this is helping. This is crucial. There are two completely different types of avoidant returns, and confusing them will cost you months or even years of your life. The comfort return happens when an avoidant's life gets hard, lonely, or uncomfortable. Maybe they tried dating someone new and it didn't work out. Maybe they're going through a rough patch. They reach out not because they've changed, but because you represent safety. When an avoidant comes back like this, you'll notice a pattern. They reach out with something casual, a meme, a "hey stranger," a question about something small. They test the waters. If you respond warmly, they'll ease back in slowly. They'll enjoy the attention, the conversations, maybe even the physical intimacy. But the moment you bring up real feelings or what went wrong last time, they'll pull back again. It's like clockwork. Research on attachment patterns shows that without therapeutic intervention, people tend to repeat the same relationship dynamics. The avoidant who left because they felt suffocated will feel suffocated again. The growth return is completely different. This happens when an avoidant has actually done internal work. And I'm not talking about reading a few articles. I'm talking about real, uncomfortable, consistent work. Usually therapy. Sometimes a wake-up call so big they couldn't ignore it anymore. When an avoidant comes back from genuine growth, the entire energy is different. They don't just miss you. They understand what they lost and why. They can name their patterns. They can admit they ran. They can sit in the discomfort of that truth without defending themselves. Here's something I promised I'd tell you earlier. The one behavior that separates real growth from just another cycle. Ready? A genuinely changed avoidant will initiate conversations about feelings without you having to pull it out of them. They'll bring up the hard stuff first. They'll ask how you felt when they left. They'll acknowledge the pain they caused. That's your signal. Not their words about missing you, not promises, but their actual, consistent willingness to be uncomfortable in the name of connection. Now let's talk about you. Because here's what happens to most people dating avoidance. You become so focused on getting them back, on being enough, on not being too much, that you lose yourself completely. You start walking on eggshells, shrinking your needs. If your avoidant comes back and you immediately drop everything to make space for them, you're teaching them that leaving has no consequences. You're showing them that your needs, your hurt, your boundaries, none of it really matters. So here's your reality check. Before you even consider taking an avoidant back, ask yourself, what's different? Not what they say is different. What's actually different? Have they been in therapy for at least 3 to 6 months? Can they talk about their attachment style and how it hurt you without getting defensive? Do they have a plan for when they start feeling overwhelmed again, because they will, that doesn't involve running away? If the answer is no, or if they make you feel bad for even asking, that's your answer. A healed avoidant won't punish you for having standards. An avoidant who just misses comfort will make you feel crazy for expecting accountability. Here's what taking an avoidant back with actual standards looks like. You tell them, I hear that you want to try again. Here's what I need to see. Consistency for at least 3 months before we make anything official. Regular communication that doesn't disappear when you're stressed. Willingness to work through conflict instead of shutting down. Evidence that you're actively working on your attachment patterns with a professional. And then, this is the hardest part. You actually mean it. You don't cave after 2 weeks because you miss them. Because here's the truth about avoidance and breakups. They can come back. They can change. But they won't do either just because you love them enough. They'll do it when the pain of staying the same finally outweighs the fear of being vulnerable. Some avoidants do the work. They face their fears. They learn that closeness doesn't have to mean losing themselves. And those relationships, they can be deep, loyal, and incredibly worth it. But most avoidants will cycle through the same pattern until something finally forces them to look inward. Your job isn't to be that something. Your job is to know your worth enough to walk away if they're not ready to meet you there. So if your avoidant comes back, pay attention. Not to your hope, not to your history, but to their actions over at least 3 months. Watch how they handle stress. Watch if they can stay present when things get real. An avoidant who's done the work will show you through consistent action, not just words. But if they're just looking for comfort, that's not love returning. That's just fear of being alone. What's your biggest fear when it comes to taking an avoidant back? Is it that they'll leave again? Or is it that you've changed too much to fit back into the old dynamic? Drop your honest thoughts below. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.